In a world where carbs are your enemy, you need one man to help you fight your battles. That man is Jimmy.
Combating nutrition disinformation and general bull. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com.
You're listening to the Keto Hacking MD podcast, hosted by veteran health podcaster Jimmy Moore and ketogenic biohacking physician Dr. John Lemansky. Visit our website, ketohackingmd.com. Listen in as Jimmy and the Keto Doctor share the powerful therapeutic effects of a low-carb, high-fat ketogenic lifestyle, combined with biohacking techniques that optimize your health. Maximize your keto lifestyle through proven and practical N=1 testing hacks. Thanks for listening and go start hacking. See you next Friday.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Instagram Live, and we're here with another episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website, and how we work is we start off live first thing when we begin. So I'm live here on Instagram right now, and then I'm live over here on Facebook Live, so we got kind of a simulcast going on here. Of course, this is going to be on replay on YouTube, so welcome, however you're watching this, whether it's live or on replay, welcome. So, you can engage live. You've got to go follow me on one of these websites, so either Instagram here, Facebook here. I'm at Living Low Carb Man, LIVIN LOWCARBMAN. You can also use that username for YouTube as well, youtube.com/livinglowcarbman, to watch all the replays of this. Of course, if you're here on Facebook Live, the video stays up for you to watch it. If you're here on Instagram Live, they only last for 24 hours and they do disappear, but everybody can access the past episodes on YouTube. So go follow me there. Finally, we had the best of the best moments of this year's show in podcast form. It's the Jimmy Rants podcast over on Apple Podcasts as well as Stitcher. All of these links, you guys, are at JimmyRants.com. Today's Jimmy Rants was inspired by a message that I got yesterday from a lady who was very, very concerned about her extremely unhealthy blood work that she got back. And so I said, okay, let's take a look at what you're talking about. And specifically, she was zeroing in on one of the health markers that she's heard me talk about on my podcast before. On Fridays, I do a show called the Keto Hacking MD podcast with a biohacking physician named Dr. John Lemansky, ketohackingmd.com if you want to go look it up. But we talk a lot about measuring various health markers, and John recently shared what his health markers were, as do I. And one of the markers was HSCRP. So if you're brand new to kind of the terminology of various health tests, HSCRP stands for high sensitivity C-reactive protein. And what this is measuring is kind of the level of inflammation in your body. And so your goal is to have as low of an inflammation as possible. And by extension of having low inflammation, you're preventing the development of chronic disease. So you want to have that to be lower and lower and lower. Well, when John shared his level of HSCRP, he said that his was 0.4. So anything under 3.0 tends to be pretty healthy when it comes to an HSCRP. But optimally, you want to kind of have it below 1.0. That's when you're really dialed in and keeping the inflammation at bay, which, oh yeah, by the way, a ketogenic diet helps with in spades. It's probably the most anti-inflammatory diet you could possibly eat. Okay. So, by the way, my HSCRP, as of the last time I ran it a couple months ago, was 1.1. So right there at that optimal level. So this lady, she writes to me and she says, oh, I have a very unhealthy marker in that HSCRP. I'm like, well, what is it? And she said, it's 1.4. I'm gonna die tomorrow. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? oh, well, I hear John talk about having a 0.4, and I just know I need to get lower and lower and lower. And so it spawned today's Jimmy Rants, because I'm seeing this happen far, far too often, you guys. And what I'm going to talk about here today is let's beware of slouching towards this concept known as orthorexia, which I'll define that in a minute, with keto and our health markers. Because I think sometimes we get so caught up in the community, so caught up in listening to people and having these expectations that are far outside of reasonability. Okay, orthorexia, let's describe that. So if you've never heard that term before, you've heard of anorexia and things like that. So orthorexia is where you become so obsessed with your health that you think having one little thing off plan is going to make you ill. Orthorexia is this over obsession with every little aspect of your health to the point that it becomes unhealthy for you. And I was trying to help this person that wrote to me understand, you know what? Your numbers are good. So again, if you're just joining us, I had a lady write me yesterday. She was all upset because she had heard me and Dr. Lemansky on my Keto Hacking MD podcast talk about our HSCRP, which is a key inflammation marker. And Dr. Lemansky's was 0.4, mine was 1.1. And she was very, very upset, thinking she was really, really ill in her health because her HSCRP came back at a 1.4. And what I'm sharing here today is perspective. Perspective, you guys. You want to know what's really, really bad with HSCRP? 10, 50. And I've seen and heard people that are dealing with this. 18. Those are not good numbers. You want the number below 3, which this lady had, and optimally below 1. So she's right there. And I think, especially those of us that have been doing this for a little while, we obsess a little bit maybe about the numbers because we want them to be as good as possible. But let me give you another example, because sometimes people have said about me and my insulin levels, my fasting insulin levels, that they are so high. So they are more elevated than I would like them to be. Ideally, you want your fasting insulin to be in the single digits, optimally under 5. And mine have been hovering somewhere around 10 to 15 for a little while. I think it's one reason I still hold on to a bit of weight is that they're in that slightly elevated level. But guys, let's keep it in perspective. 10 to 15 is far different than someone who has type 2 diabetes, who has uncontrolled production of insulin in the 50 to 100 to even upwards of 200 units of insulin being produced a day. Perspective. And again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about this whole idea of let's don't slouch toward perfectionism when it comes to looking at how keto is impacting our health. Yes, we all want to get to those optimal levels in our health markers, but I think you can actually flip the script and go too far in the direction of perfectionism, expecting to have these absolutely beautiful numbers, when the reality is, for some people, you're not going to get all of your numbers necessarily in order. Case in point, Christine just got back her HSCRP from her most recent physical that she had done, and it was like 5 point something. And of course, she's been dealing with autoimmune disease. She has Hashimoto's, a thyroid condition, and she's noticed lately that she's had some flare-ups with the Hashimoto's. Well, those flare-ups can actually increase the inflammation. So can stress. So can a lack of sleep. There's so many X factors that can be involved. So for this lady that wrote to me and had a 1.4, and she wants to be at 0.4 like John Lemansky, I have to remind her that, okay, yeah, keto's going to help get it in line, but there could be other things going on. And I think understanding that as you go and live in the day-to-day is so critical, because we can definitely walk that fine line between wanting really good numbers, but then expecting a certain number on a blood marker that may or may not be reasonable. You guys hearing me today? I'm seeing this way, way too often. Another one that I've seen people complain about that they get in a tizzy about is their blood sugar. And people typically will write to me and say, well, my morning fasted blood glucose is 110. What am I doing wrong? Do I have diabetes? And I'm going, relax. Number one, having elevated blood sugar levels in the morning as a ketogenic dieter is not necessarily a bad thing. So it's actually this process called a glucose sparing effect, where the body has glucose dependent functions in the body, and the way that the body handles making sure all of those glucose dependent functions of the body have glucose is it produces, with the cortisol rise that naturally happens in the morning to help wake you up, it will also raise your blood sugar. So generally when you test your blood sugar first thing in the morning, you could have that triple digit reading, but then wait a couple of hours, maybe 2-3 hours, definitely after you've eaten, wait 3 to 4 hours, and then test again. And what you'll see is that blood sugar is in a lot better line than it was maybe first thing in the morning. I think the thing that freaked me out the most was when I was testing my blood glucose during like a long fast. I've done several 21-day fasts, and like day 16 of a fast, I'd wake up and prick my finger and it'd be 117. How in the world do you have that much blood sugar? Well, it's the glucose sparing effect. And the way that you can mitigate that one is always, always, always look at what your A1C is doing. So A1C is your average blood glucose from the past 3 months. So it's one marker that you can have run. And if that one's normal and yet you're having this elevated blood glucose in the morning, then you're okay. And again, it's always keeping in perspective of what these health markers mean, because it's very tempting, especially when you've done this a while and you're dialed in your diet and you're getting all the results that you're wanting, and then you suddenly get an HSCRP that's maybe a bit higher than you want. One other thing that I want to bring out about this too is don't ever react and respond to any one test that you have done. So this lady had the HSCRP and it came back 1.4. Who's to say that that test came back and it might have been skewed? I mean, tests are fallible. I know we like to put a lot of stock into test markers and health markers being the be-all, end-all, and when we get one test marker back that's a little wackadoodle as compared to normal, we all have a hissy fit. I'll give you an example. So I, for the longest time, have always had really good PSA. That's one of the key health markers for men about the prostate health. And so mine has always consistently been under 1, which is healthy for you, somewhere like around like 0.7, 0.8. And so several years back, I go to the doctor and I have a PSA run, and it came back 20.8. 20.8? Like significantly off the charts high. And of course, having done this a little while, I did not freak out. I was like, okay, something's going on. Let me investigate further. And what I discovered was I had a urinary tract infection that was causing that number to go higher. And so took care of the urinary tract infection, went back, got retested. Guess what the level was? 0.7. So it's a lesson, you guys. And again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about how people that tend to do keto and have been tracking health markers, you kind of slouching towards a little bit of orthorexia. And we have to walk that fine line, because we all want really good health markers, because we all want to be really, really healthy. But are you becoming unhealthy in your thinking pattern about this by so obsessing about every little number? Let me give one more example. We've already talked about HSCRP. We've already talked about blood sugar. Let's do one more. Triglycerides. So triglycerides, if you look at a standard lipid panel, they'll say that the range of triglycerides should be between or under 150 is what they say. Actually, though, you want it to be under 100 and optimally under 70. And of course, people that eat keto, you can get significantly below 70 in your triglyceride levels. That's the telltale sign, you guys, if you're carbohydrate restricting or not. If you cheat, it's going to show up in the triglycerides. If you have anything that's kind of off plan, and even though you get right back on plan again, you're going to see a little bit of a bump up in your triglycerides. Totally normal. All the keto docs I've ever interviewed on my podcast say, yeah, I can always tell. I can always tell when a patient had something they weren't supposed to have because it shows up in the triglycerides. So anyway, when people test their triglycerides, it typically, if they're really strict keto, it typically can be 30s, 40s, 50s as the norm. And so people see that and go, well, mine are so incredibly high at 88. Oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? And I'm like, 88 is still good. What are you belly aching about? 88 for a triglyceride number is at that sweet spot of under 100. Now, is it optimal? Is it under 70? No, but that means that you have more things to work on. And it's just a gentle reminder that you are on this journey and something in your diet and or lifestyle produced that triglyceride to be a little bit higher than you wanted it to be. But perspective, you guys, 88 in the grand scheme of things is far healthier than probably most of the population, okay? And so most of the population that eats a standard American diet, they're not looking at triglycerides under 100. They're looking at triglycerides over 200, 300, 500. I've heard as high as 1,300 triglycerides. That is what is unhealthy. So we've got to keep the proper perspective here, you guys, and always remember that when we're looking at health markers in the context of keto, we don't need to let healthy numbers suddenly become unhealthy because they're not at the perfect optimal range that you expect. You feeling me today, you guys? All right, I want to see what you guys have to say. Again, we're live on Instagram here, Facebook here. I'll come to you guys here in a minute, Facebook, but I'm going to go to Instagram Live first. Welcome in, welcome in. You're making a difference in my life. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Jess. Thank you for that. All right. Any good comments you got? I know you had some because I could see them while they were coming in. Steph said, my HSCRP was 0.9 in November. That is excellent. Good job, Steph. Great message as usual. I've heard behind my back that it's believed I'm orthorexic. Nah, man, just love myself enough to eat well. Oh, thank you for that, Steph. So, yes, there will be friends and family in your life who will try to make this comment that you might have orthorexia simply because you want to make better choices for your health. Like if you don't eat bread at a restaurant, oh, that's unhealthy to not let yourself go and have whatever you want. And so that's part of this as well, is you've got all of these people that already think you're kind of a health nut. And so it kind of makes you want to dial in even more. So yeah, thank you for bringing that out, Steph. Amy says, I definitely can see orthorexia as an issue when doing keto. We all get so focused on every little detail and worrying about it. Yeah, some people do. Texas Livingston said her HSCRP was 10, which is extremely unhealthy, and now it's 1.1. Good job. All right. Oops. Sometimes Instagram frustrates me, but it is what it is. I'll deal with it. My inflammation markers for my rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis are literally off the chart, says Jess. Still struggling to get healthier, but I'm not giving up. Well, you have a reason why your HSCRP is higher. There's some people that they think because it's 1.4 that they have symptoms like what you're dealing with. And so, yeah, like Christine with her Hashimoto's having that recent HSCRP come back what it is. And you with rheumatoid arthritis, those are things that you really, autoimmune conditions that you really can't control what's happening with your HSCRP. You just keep doing the things that you have to do in order to get healthy. Brittany Keto Glow says triglycerides under 100. Yes. I had a client come to me with triglycerides in the 700s, says Brittany. I'm down, I've got them down to 300s after 4 months. He's up for blood work soon. I can't wait to see where keto has gotten him. Yeah, keto will drop trigs like a rock. Keto Gramp says, perspective is awesome. Great topic. Thank you. Liz says, yeah, the struggle is real when you're so focused on the numbers, and I'm totally guilty of that. We all are, Liz. Have to dial it back in a little bit. Yeah. Is this a normal test, or do we need to ask for it specifically? So, Amy, that's a great question. I am seeing more and more doctors that are pulling away from various tests. Now, I don't know which test you're referring to. HSCRP should be a pretty typical test for most doctors, but I would ask for it by name. Christine actually had to ask for hers. So she got to the doctor's office and they weren't going to run HSCRP, and she knows better. She knew with her autoimmune disease, she needed to keep an eye on the HSCRP inflammation marker. So she had to ask for it. Same with A1C. They may not run it, so you have to ask for it. The reason I had to fire my doctor was he refused to run fasting insulin. You're not type 2 diabetic. Well, hello, genius. I don't want to become one. Can I keep an eye on this key marker? No. I'll pay out of pocket for it. No. So you're fired is what I had to do. My trigs were almost 1,000 a few years ago, says Anne Marie. Doctor never associated it with my blood glucose. So crazy. I need to get that HSCRP. Yes, you do. Kitty Caddick, I'm not tracking anything right now, just the way I feel, look, and how my genes fit. And some people, they're very comfortable with that. Although I will say you won't always feel if you have a high HSCRP. You won't always feel if your A1C is going towards the diabetic range. You won't always feel things that are happening in health markers. But it's good that you feel comfortable enough at this point, Kat, that you can do that. All right, I'm going to come over to Facebook now and get on these questions and comments over here. Welcome in, you guys. Thanks for being here. It's great how you mix it up. Thank you, Bonnie. I will continue to do that. I'm having guilty feelings of not being on Instagram, says Bonnie. Well, I'm on both, so... Wynette says, this sounds like hypochondria, talking about the lady that wrote to me. I don't know if it was hypochondria, but I think she just has this mindset, which is why I wanted to do this Jimmy Rants here today, this mindset that 1.4 was somehow a bad thing because she was comparing herself to Dr. John Lemansky, who does all kind of wackadoodle biohacks that help to bring his inflammation markers down. I do a lot of biohacks too in my life. The number one that I do is keto. And mine is at 1.1. I'm sure if I did some more consistent ice baths and more consistent infrared sauna, I'm going to start incorporating some red light therapy with a Juve light soon, that my inflammation markers are going to come down even more. But that's just part of the progress of going keto and doing all the things that you do. So she was not having the perspective of 1.4 is pretty darn good. Everything's relative, says John. Absolutely. It really is. And you have to know your relativity to health. You know, I look at my 1.1 HSCRP and I never ran HSCRP or any health markers. If I did have them run, I didn't give a crap what they were when I was 410 pounds eating a bunch of crap. But now I do care. But I'm sure my inflammation markers were crazy high when I was doing all that damage to my body back in the day. Just getting on, how is this test given? Which test, Sharon? I don't know what you're talking about. Wynette, I don't know the number, but was told mine was completely off the charts. Which one? Are you talking about HSCRP? And I think that's probably what Sharon's talking about. So it's a blood test. They can pull your blood and test it just like they would like insulin or anything else. John says, I'm in the same boat. My insulin is higher than yours. Been keto since 2015. Also holding on to some weight. Well, the thing is, keto certainly is a major aspect of controlling things like insulin and inflammation, but sometimes you need to add some extra things to it. So we refer to this in a book I'm coming out with in July called Keto Plus with Dr. Lemansky. Sometimes keto is a good foundation, but for some of us that have done extra damage from our past lifestyle and nutrition choices, you've got to add in keto plus some other things. So that's where HIIT training, that's where infrared sauna, some red light therapy, cold thermogenesis can all come into play to help bring those things down. Of course, I'm doing the ultimate biohack starting September the 1st. I am going away for 6 months. So there will be no Jimmy Rants, there will be no podcast, there will be no book writing from September 1 to February the 29th of next year. And because I want to see what impact will that have on my insulin levels, because one of my theories is the reason my insulin stays slightly higher, again, not uber high like type 2 diabetic, but higher than I would prefer it to be, is the stress. And it's the stress that's then raising that insulin level. So I'll have no stress by being off for 6 months. Not that I don't love you guys, but I need to get away. And so I'm going to get away for 6 months and see what happens. It'll be really fascinating. Lisa says, I'm at my 6-month mark of keto. My CRP was 15.8. I have Hashimoto's, hypothyroid, and fibromyalgia. I'm not expecting miracles, but can't wait to see my next test markers. Lisa, I think you'll be surprised by how good they are now. Is it necessary to track all your numbers, says Sylvia? No, not necessary, but some people like the peace of mind of knowing, and for me, knowledge is power. If you have the ability to run markers to see how you're doing, why wouldn't you run them? Now, some people also, on this point of orthorexia, which we're kind of bringing into this conversation, some people over-obsess about it, and they run their markers so often that it becomes almost like stepping on the scale, which I think is the stupidest thing in the world, to constantly step on that lying liar that lies all the time. Hello, Robert from Poland. Thanks for being here, man. My triglycerides went from over 200s down into the 70s, says Melissa. That's pretty telltale when you go keto. That pretty much axiomatically happens. Robin says people will freak out if their blood sugar's 80 because it was 70 the last time they tested. Robin, you know what I'm talking about. You run a Facebook group, and yeah, people just, they don't have the perspective of normal blood sugar is anywhere between 60 and 100. Normal. And so when it's like 95, oh my gosh, I'm going to have diabetes tomorrow. And I'm like, really? Really? You're killing me, Smalls. Dora says my triglycerides are 47. See, Dora, you're the one that people will compare themselves to because yours are so outstandingly good at 47. People will be like, well, Dora's got 47 triglycerides. Mine are 87. Mine are so unhealthy. No! They're very healthy. You're not Dora. John says, I wish I'd known as much about health markers before keto. That way I could have kept a better baseline. Well, John, like I said earlier, I didn't know any of my health markers before when I was 410 pounds because, quite frankly, I didn't care. But by the time I started caring, it was long after I'd lost weight and gotten healthier and made better choices. So now I don't have the old baseline by which to compare. But I know you guys, here's the thing. When you go keto, you're always going to be far better off than you were before keto. So I hope you realize that and understand that and acknowledge that every time you eat that steak and vegetables with butter on it, is you're far better off today than you ever would have been on your crappy garbage days. Thanks for everything you do. Thank you, Robin. What was your big takeaway of your DNA test recently? So Frank's talking about a DNA test that I had run, which again, didn't obsess about it, but it was a genetic test and it had some really interesting markers for me. Definitely go back and listen to the Keto Hacking MD podcast. Right about a month ago now, McKay Rippey was the gentleman who was on there with us, and McKay helped me and John run this genetic test. And in there, it showed that my body doesn't create gluconeogenesis very well. So just real quick, that's the process by which your body can convert protein and fat into glucose. And so I've done some experiments where I've done very high protein, and because of this genetic pathway being disrupted, I would have hypoglycemia happen. So for me, that explains it, Frank, why I had the hypoglycemia taking place during those experiments. But again, I did not let it freak me out. I was just like, okay, another piece to the puzzle that I could then add to my knowledge. And I think a lot of this discussion we're having here today is about what's your perspective? How do you respond when you get these markers run? How do you respond when you get a specific number and things like HSCRP, insulin, blood sugar, triglycerides, all these things we're talking about? How you respond is the key. And to me, I never get upset over any one marker, ever, 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 ever. If I see one that's higher, I go, okay, that's interesting. Let's test it again soon if it's really higher, like the PSA I had. Or I just write it out until the next time I have them run. And then I run it again, and it's a similarly high number. I go, okay, maybe there's something going on in my lifestyle I need to correct. And so then I'll run it again, a few months later, and it's still higher. Then I go, okay, now I've gotten it 3 times. I've replicated this same high number 3 times, high number. Remember, perspective. And then I take corrective action at that point. Sometimes you test the second time, and it's completely back into the normal range again. So don't get overly upset about any one number. I'm proud of my insulin 3.1, says Robin, and then John told me his. I'm on a mission now, but only because I'm competitive. 3.1 is pretty hardcore for your insulin levels. What's interesting, some people can get like a below 2 and below 1, and they think that's really, really good. And actually, once it gets that low, it actually is a sign that you might be developing type 1 diabetes, where you don't make any insulin at all. So kind of in that 3 to 5 range is pretty darn healthy. So I would not be too upset, Robin, at your 3.1. Gerard, my last CRP was 0.7 after 6 years on keto. Yep, pretty typical. You have to be a caveman. Oh, when I'm off for 6 months, Frank says you're going to be a caveman. Yeah, I'm in my man cave now. This is the building that I record these in, and yeah, something tells me I'm going to be hanging out over here quite a bit, just chilling. I support you in what you're doing. I hope it's what you need. Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, being off for 6 months will be a true godsend, and I'm real excited, you guys. Just for my own sanity's sake, I've been going at this for 15 years straight. I think about like all these people that have gotten into keto in the past couple of years. It's like, yeah, 2 years, you ain't even got started yet. So yeah, I think taking the break will be really good. Wynette says, my parents freak out because I have a glucose level that they think is too low. Yeah, I remember when I went to see my mom a few years back, and her husband, my stepdad, is a type 2 diabetic, and so he had a bunch of glucose trips. And so I said, let me test my glucose, and I'd been fasting for about 18 hours, and it came back of 71, and they thought I needed to rush to the hospital. I'm like, Mom, 71 is normal. Very, very normal. Oh, that's hypoglycemia for Frank, my stepdad. Hypoglycemia, I'm like, yeah, because he's a type 2 diabetic, and his blood sugars are typically, 170s, 180s. 71 would be hypoglycemia, but within the context of being a keto-adapted, fat-adapted, healthy person, 71 is completely normal. Perspective. Bonnie says, I stepped on the scale today, 2 pounds more than yesterday for no reason at all. I don't cheat. And then you say, the lying liar that lies. It came into my head, and I didn't let it ruin my day. Yay! Bonnie, you are learning, my dear. My LDL is 108, says Dora. So LDL is another one people kind of get upset about. LDL means absolutely nothing. Mic drop. Your LDL doesn't really mean anything because it's only a calculated estimated number. So I really don't let LDL cholesterol mess with my head at all. It doesn't mean anything. What means something is maybe small dense LDL particles, which you could run with this test called an NMR lipoprofile. So run that test if you're in America. Outside of America, you can't get it. Sorry about that. But in America, you can have this run. Any doctor can run it, called an NMR lipoprofile test. And it'll give you your total number of LDL particles, but also your size of your particles and the number of small, dense LDL. That is the truly bad LDL cholesterol, not just LDL in general. Christy says, I'm so happy I've been steered toward keto. It's been a long, twisty road for me. My type 2 diabetes is now cured. I'm the lightest I've been in 14 years, down 115 pounds. That's awesome, Christy. Keep up the good work. All right, let's see if we got any other. Let's see here. Oops. I love it when I'm scrolling and I randomly wave at somebody. So if I wave at you while I'm doing a Jimmy Rants on Instagram, that's why. Is this a normal test or do we need to ask for it specifically? So I think I already answered that one. Let's see here. So Kitty Caddick says, I'm actually focusing in on my heart rate now. Totally forgot. Used to be lower 40s, now in the upper 60s. Trying to get it to lower again. See, so Kat is so dialed in that it's down to heart rate. If you want to kind of go a little more advanced, there's heart rate variability, which you can strap across your chest, this little measurement device, and that shows you your level of sympathetic versus parasympathetic, which you want more parasympathetic, less stress in your life. All right. K9 Coach, that's a general question. Go ahead and send that to me in a private message. I'd be delighted to help you with that. So guys, the bottom line in this Jimmy Rants, hopefully you have gotten the theme that we're talking about here today, is that yes, we all want to be optimally healthy. Yes, we want to do those things with keto and other things in our lifestyle that will make our health the best it could possibly be. But no, please do not be like this person that wrote to me and was all up in arms because her HSCRP was at a very, very unhealthy level, and it was 1.4. And if you want to know what kind of really good, functional, healthy ranges of health tests are, who wants to know that? Raise your hand. Let me know if you want to know what good health markers to track, what they should be, what's the range. Anybody interested in that? Because if you are, you're going to be very happy to hear that on this week's episode of Keto Talk coming up on Thursday, ketotalk.com. There's the Keto Talk. We're going to go over, me and my co-host, Dr. Will Cole, we're going to go over all of the health markers that are relevant for you as a keto dieter and what ranges you should be aiming for in those health tests. So we're recording that at 1 o'clock Eastern time today. So here in just about 3 hours, I'll be recording that episode, and then we're airing it ketotalk.com and on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll air that on Thursday. So tune in, you guys. Definitely check it out. See if there's any other comments that came in. Jesse says, my dad is off of his diabetes meds. His pants are falling off. Butter makes your pants fall off, as my friend Bob Briggs used to say. He's looking for a loophole in order to get out of keto. Why? Eat steak, eat vegetables, eat fat, eat bacon. Come on. If his cholesterol goes up, ugh, we will have a fight. Yes. And his cholesterol might go up. That's the thing. Yeah, because some people that eat keto, the cholesterol does go up. Other people eat keto and it goes down. Christine just had her total cholesterol run. It was like 187. And she eats a lot of fat in her diet. Most insurance companies don't cover an NMR, but the additional cost is worth it. Yes, thank you for that, Taylor. They don't, but it is so worth it. And you can run those on your own if you need to. All right, any last comments over here? Sterling says, if your body's making LDL to transfer fats around your body to use as energy, it will, of course, be higher. Exactly. See, they never acknowledge that at the doctor's office. You shine the light on so many things for me. Thank you, Dora. That's my job. It's kind of what I do here. Sharon says, when we get these tests and they're off the charts, we know our doctors will want to put us on a medication. How do we get out of that? Sharon, you say, I'm the boss in this relationship, which you as the patient are. And you tell the doctor, okay, it's an interesting marker. Thank you for your recommendation that I go on a statin drug for that high cholesterol. I'm going to go ahead and continue with the lifestyle changes that I've already seen great benefit in. I'm feeling great. I've lost X number of pounds. I'm off of this and this and this medication. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Let's just retest again here in about 3 to 4 months, maybe 6 months down the road, and see how that marker's doing. And that's how you have that conversation with that doctor. Far too many patients cower in fear to the person in the white coat. And while I have great respect for doctors and what they do, and especially if I break my arm, I want them to put that back together again. That's what they're good at. What they're not good at is helping you with lifestyle things like diet, with anything related to your nutrition at all. They just don't have the knowledge. And so if they don't have the knowledge, they don't really have any business giving you advice on what you should be doing as far as like mitigating things that are impacted by nutrition. So for me, it's very easy for me to tell a doctor, thank you for your advice. You're merely a consultant in my health. I don't tell them that, but that's the overriding theme. And I'm going to choose to do it naturally. Now, they may call you non-compliant and ding you in your file, and they may even threaten to drop you as a patient. So be it. You're doing what's right for you. Is there a keto test you can just blow in instead of strips? If this is off topic, I'll message you. So are you talking about to measure breath ketones, Bonnie? Because there are 2 that I'm aware of that are legit ways to test for ketosis in your breath. And again, if you don't get into ketosis using the breath, it's not the end of the world, kind of on this same thing of what we talk about here today. Oh my gosh, I only blew green, but I should have been blowing red. Don't do that to yourself. But yes, Ketonics is the name of the breath meter. I've been talking about them since they were created many years ago. So Ketonics, Ketonix. And if you go to ketonics.co, I think that's the one here in America. If you live somewhere besides the United States, you can go to ketonics.com and access it. But get the Bluetooth one. That is the latest and greatest. It's got all this integration with smartphones, and you blow into it. And it's got like a little charger thing that you can plug into the bottom. After it warms up, you blow into it, and then it gives you a readout on your phone of what your level of ketosis is. It's not the same as blood ketone testing, so don't try to compare, but it does show you if you're burning fat for fuel. The other one that I just recently found out about and just recently started testing myself, and so far so good, I'm trying to work with them about maybe becoming a sponsor because I do love the simplicity of their product, but it's called Keto, K-E-Y-T-O. And it's this little device that you blow into, same kind of concept as Ketonics. You blow into it and it gives you a readout on your phone. Please, 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 can I say one more time? Please do not fall for all of these Facebook ads and Instagram ads and things that you're hearing about these breathalyzer type things that you blow into and they're like $40. Your clue that it's a bad advice for testing for breath ketones is that it's under $50. These things are typically over $50. If you get the under $50 ones, it's a piece of crap. It's a piece of junk. Please do not fall for people that are slapping on a breathalyzer test keto, and then they're suckering so many people into spending $39.99 to get this piece of crap equipment that doesn't really tell you anything about what your level of ketones is, okay? All right, I think I saw a few more comments. I had to sign a waiver because I would not take a statin. Yeah, and that's what you do, Di. You do what you got to do. Taylor says, I made a Jimmy rant. I feel so special now. Your life's pretty boring if this is the highlight of your day. I wanted to add that I asked my doctor for a script and then go to a lab on my own. For like the NMR and some other interesting. That's great. Mike says, be ready to possibly start looking for a new doctor. Yes. George says, I solemnly agree. Doctors are consultants. We are in charge of our own health. Well, we should be, George. That's for sure. Did I miss your definition of orthorexia? Yes, you did, D-Bron. Go back and watch the full video, but I defined that pretty extensively. Is there any news on the Apple Watch with a CGM? So Kitty Cat, that was supposed to be out. I have the new Apple Watch, and that was supposed to be out at the beginning of the year, but it still has not arrived, the application. So if you have an Apple Watch, there's a new feature on there. Oh, you're talking about the CGM. Sorry. So CGM, I'm not sure. Continuous glucose monitor, if they've integrated that or not, I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything about it, Kat. Alicia, just getting started. I'm at 1.4 on the Keto Mojo blood test after 4 days. Is that good? So that's a general question. Write to me off the air. Happy to help you. But in short, yes, that's very good. But I have a few more comments if you want to write to me. So guys, the bottom line in this Jimmy Rants, please, please, please beware of slouching towards orthorexia, this whole obsession about being perfect in every little health marker. Do you want to be as optimally healthy as possible? Absolutely. But when you go keto and you start getting these health markers back, always keep in mind the perspective that those numbers are good. Okay? Let's don't let good upset us when we expect perfect optimal. Perfect optimal is the goal, but good is still freaking good. So celebrate the good. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, if you want to engage live in the content, you got to go follow me on Instagram Live or Facebook Live. Sometimes we also go live on YouTube. In fact, I'm trying to get a third device, you guys, where I could go simultaneous across 3 platforms all at the same time. I'm trying to get like one of those new iPad minis coming in April, later in April. So I could be doing this number very soon with Jimmy Rants. So yeah, go follow me, Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, you can watch it live. You can also watch it on replay here on Facebook. This video stays up. Here on Instagram Live, it does disappear after 24 hours on replay, but we put all of the past episodes up on YouTube, so go follow me on YouTube. Again, Living Low Carb Man is the username there. You can also do a keyword Jimmy Rants. You'll find the show. Finally, the best of the best moments of this year's show are in podcast form. It's the Jimmy Rants podcast on Apple Podcasts as well as Stitcher. All of these links, you guys, are at jimmyrants.com. So until next time, we'll see you then.